My name is Erin Martin. I'm a member of Cardiff Mixed Speakers Club. And my speech is entitled, Travel is a Brutality. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Travel is a brutality. It forces you to trust strangers and to lose sight of all that's familiar. Without the comfort of home and friends, you are constantly off balance. So said César Pavese, an Italian poet and writer, and I have to agree. Even on relatively short journeys, such as the train ride from Cardiff to London Paddington, the proximity of strangers' bodies and their unfamiliar odour, obnoxious coughing, spitting, mobile phone chatter, crisp crunching, and sideways glances at your reading material force you to scrunch your body into uncomfortable positions to maintain an element of personal space. You are off balance. Once in London, though the city has much to recommend it, travel is not one of its delights. Taxis are prohibitively expensive, and I've yet to meet anyone who actually enjoys the tube. Travelling underground at breakneck speed like a jet-propelled mole is certainly not my idea of fun. And the buses are worse. Bus drivers brighten up their working day by deliberately speeding up to the bus stop and then slamming the brakes on at the last moment. The effect of this on any passengers foolish enough to be standing at the time is dramatic. They suddenly find themselves airborne, with the contents of their shopping travelling on behind them. There are other hazards too, lying in wait for unsuspecting travellers on London buses. Travelling by bus, I recently arrived at a meeting in St. Pancras, smartly dressed, but wearing layers to fend off the cold, with at least 3 items of clothing glued to my nether regions by a piece of discarded chewing gum I'd sat down on. It was only much later that I discovered the offending item and the rather revealing arrangement of my clothes. The brutality of travel increases the further afield you venture. Long-haul flights involve hanging around for hours in airports, eating inedible food, and doing inelegant exercises to avoid blood clots. For in-flight entertainment, you can try reading while your neighbour dims the lights and falls asleep with his head leaning dangerously close to your shoulder. Or watch a film that you've already seen twice. For maximum brutality, I would have to nominate China, especially at this time of year, when they take the spring break. Most of the population of 3.5 billion seem to board trains at this time. So desperate are they to travel that when the doors finally close, people push each other in headfirst through the open windows. Inside, the combined heat of so many packed bodies resembles Dante's Inferno. On the roads, it's mayhem. Motorbikes carry whole families. There are no speed limits and no safe crossing places for pedestrians. It's truly frightening. At the other end of the travel experience, I have friends who like to take expensive sea cruises. These appeal to me not at all, as they seem to mainly consist of the wearing of posh frocks and the consumption of vast amounts of food and drink, an unattractive combination. Tour buses also leave me cold, and in some cases cold and wet, as when I endured an open-top bus ride around Paris some years ago. This was indeed one of those misery tours the comedian Rod Gilbert describes rather cruelly. We all sat in our emergency anoraks, in the driving wind and rain, with screwed-up faces, looking like shrink-wrapped gargoyles. Why do we endure the brutality of travel at all? The usual argument runs something like, travel broadens the mind, and it's such fun to plan a trip and to experience the unfamiliar. But there are ways of broadening the mind that don't involve getting on ships or planes or public transport. Watch Paul Merton in America on TV, read Bill Bryden or the other travel writers. And by all means, plan a trip if that gives you pleasure. Just don't go on it. It's obvious, really, isn't it, that the mind doesn't actually have to go anywhere to be broadened. But if you are determined to experience the unfamiliar firsthand, try walking a different route to the shops or to work. Change the furniture around in your living room. With your armchair facing in a different direction, you can get a whole new perspective on life. So please, let's all avoid the brutality and travel only when absolutely necessary. In a nutshell, stay at home.